Hello everyone, good morning. So today we'll just get a good idea of what velocity is and what they're providing to us and what all things we can do using velocity, right? Right. So velocity is nothing but, as of now, it's a Salesforce acquired company, right? So it was a individual company earlier, but now Salesforce has acquired it. It's just another platform that has been created on top of Salesforce so that they can provide much more customized version of application to end users, right? Without even any, additional customization required, right? So that means they provide us a platform which has almost everything. So we can just simply use them and deliver that to the customer. Maybe a little, customization here and there, right? Right. So we'll try to get a better understanding of velocity today. So we'll try to see what is velocity and how it is working. And like in whenever you speak about velocity, you hear a term called industry clouds, right? So we'll try to get a better understanding of it, and we'll see what are the advantages of using velocity, and we'll just see why velocity, right? Why not simply use Salesforce or any other for that matter? And like velocity provides us a certain components, right? We'll try to understand them, and yeah, right. So as we know, in not just specific to Salesforce, usually any cloud companies, it, be it AWS or like whatever it is, like any Amazon cloud, Google cloud, any cloud basically offers you three types of services, right? So you can utilize any of these three services which fits you, and you can build an application or whatever it is, right? So first layer is basically your IaaS, which is nothing but uh, I mean, just a second, infrastructure as a service. Sorry for that. Yeah, infrastructure as a service, in a sense. Basically, they provide you the usually to run any, to host any website or anything. You usually require, storage. You require network. You require servers. All these things. It usually takes up a lot of space. But what these cloud companies do, they will provide you that infrastructure. You just pay them the money, right? You can use as much as you want, and they'll give you some licenses so you can access it, right? So they just provide you these things like storage services, servers and network, but yeah, you will have to do everything else, like creating an application, creating a platform to develop an application, right? The next thing is which settles above this IaaS, which is called PaaS, platform as a service. So what you can do using this is, you Salesforce already has all these things, storage, servers, and network, and they would have created a base application. Using that base application, create a platform and provide it to the customers, right? So you can use this platform, which is already built on Salesforce, and you can create applications, right? We'll get back to this more on this, try to understand that more. The next layer is software as a service. This is, I mean, whoever is a Salesforce developer here, right? They all would be knowing, or even without knowing, you all will be working in this, using this service as, uh, our thing, right? Usually we use SaaS capability of Salesforce, right? Whatever we as developers doing currently, right? That is nothing but we are using SaaS capability of Salesforce. That means we are using Salesforce and building a software and providing it to the customer so that the customers won't have to install anything, right? All they need is a browser, internet connection, username and password. They can access this application, right? So generally, whatever we build on Salesforce, right? Like as a Salesforce developer, I would have worked in maybe some 3 or 4 different projects, right? So whatever application I have delivered to the customer, right, in those 3 or 4 projects, they are nothing but I'm using SaaS capability of Salesforce, right? Now it settles above the PaaS layer, right? Now let's get back to this PaaS layer. what these guys do is, I mean, if you are using SaaS capability of Salesforce, that means you'll use, the standard objects, custom objects, you'll write Apex classes, you'll add some create new custom objects and add some relations. You use these record types, page layouts, triggers, all these things, right? These are all already provided by Salesforce, and we are just using them to build a software. But this PaaS layer, what it does is it gives you more options, right? What they usually do is they create, some more, triggers, or they'll add their own customization, and they will provide it to the, developers, and those developers can use that, right? So that the amount of customization will already be reduced, because you will get all of that using this PaaS, right? The examples is Vlocity. Vlocity is the PaaS capability of Salesforce. Viva CRM, you may have heard. Tableau, CPQ, all these things. All these things, they use Salesforce. They build an application on top of Salesforce, and they'll provide that as a platform to developers, right? So, like CPQ deals mostly with the pricing, right? So anyone who wants to, use CPQ, right, to define these prices and all, they don't have to do everything manually, because most of the customization is already done by CPQ, and you just install that CPQ, managed package, and you'll get everything there, right? As a developer, your burden is reduced a lot, right? So that's what these guys will do. Viva, Vlocity, Tableau, CPQ. There are so many applications that are like provided as a managed package, right? These are nothing but they are using PaaS capability of Salesforce, right? So that is what Vlocity is, and that's how it works. Now let's dig a little deeper, right? Whenever we hear about this industry specific cloud, what exactly is this, right? So let's take the current scenario itself. Like now we have this COVID, and like there are so many vaccines that are coming up, right? Pfizer is there, like so many other companies are there, right? Moderna, all these things. So usually what happens is, before a drug comes into the market by any of these pharma companies, they actually go through a lot of process, right? For example, Pfizer, let's consider Pfizer. So let's say they have, I mean, now it's a different situation because they had to do it everything urgently. But usually, let's consider common cold. And for common cold, if they want, they have created a new drug. What they do is they go through all these clinical trials and everything. Once clinical trials are done, all these companies, they'll not release the drug into the market directly, because no one will, no doctor or hospital will prescribe them until they actually know that, okay, Pfizer has released so and so drug. So what these guys do, they'll have some sales executives. So they give these products to sales executives and ask them to go to the hospitals and doctors, right? They go, they describe about the product, they describe about the side effects, they describe about the advantages, and they provide some samples to the doctor. And if they like it, then they'll start prescribing the drug, and that's how the drug comes into the market, and that's how the business of Pfizer grows, right? So to fit in all of this process, you need a software, right? For example, you need to know how many samples you are sending it to the doctor. You need to know which sales executive is going to which hospitals and which doctors, and which area belongs to them. Like there are so many things like clinical trials, all these things. You need a software to handle all of this in the backend, right? So no matter where you build your software, the business flow is always going to be the same, right? That means the clinical trials, then sales executives, then doctors, hospitals, they get the samples. Once they find it good, then only they start prescribing it. So no matter which application or which platform you use to build a software, this is going to be the business flow always, right? I can build an application to fit in this whole business process using Java, I can do that using maybe AWS. I can do that using, maybe Google Cloud. I can do that using Salesforce. Well, no matter which platform I use, the business flow is always same, right? So in each industry, this business flow is going to be the same, right? If you consider pharma, this is how the process goes. If you consider telecom, they have a specific procedure. If you consider insurance, they have a specific procedure. Maybe they all use, each of the companies uh, may use, different brands use different kinds of software to build their, application, different kinds of platform to build their application, but the business flow is always going to be the same. So that's what Vlocity has understood and are providing industry specific clouds. That means to make sure that they have identified these business uh, flows and created data models and created some additional customization and a lot more things, right? Uh, which fits into that business flow, and they provide it to us as a managed package, right? So if I'm like, let's consider Geo, right? If Geo now wants to build a Salesforce Vlocity application, right? They don't have to build things from right from the scratch, right? They can just download this Vlocity Telecom CMT domain. They can just download this managed package, buy the license from Vlocity, and that's it. You have almost 50% of the application built, ready, right? So usually, I mean, we developers think that, okay, when we start a project, right from the scratch, that is the starting. But no, actually, a lot of brainstorming goes into this deciding the design, the architecture, the product models, the data models, all these things, right? Maybe around 6 to 7 months goes in deciding this, right? So if you download Vlocity, I mean, if you start using Vlocity, you don't have to do that much of brainstorming. You already have, as a data model perspective, almost 90% is already built, right? Maybe here and there you have to make minor adjustments, right? So it's like my personal view is, for example, I have worked in almost 5 to 6 different telecom projects, and yeah, most probably everything is already there in Vlocity, and all we have to do is just start using it, right? No need the data model is already there. The few of the customizations are already done. All you have to do is make sure that if there is any other specific business specific requirements, you build it, right? So that's what Vlocity is doing for many industries now, right? So for telecom, it's always going to be the same. For insurance, it's always going to be the same. So identifying specific business processes, specific business flows, Vlocity has created industry specific clouds, which technically means they have created a managed package which contains lots of customizations already built by Vlocity, right? Customization includes the, maybe some places they need triggers, some places they need some custom objects, some additional relationships, some Apex classes, VF pages, lot of things, right? All these things are already built by Vlocity. You can just download the package, right? You are an insurance company, just go and download the insurance package. If you're a telecom company, go and download the telecom package, right? So that is what Vlocity is doing, and that is what we call as industry specific clouds, right? There are whatever you see on the screen, there are around 6 as of now, and Vlocity is trying to extend it up to 15 domains, 15 industry clouds. Yeah, since Salesforce has acquired uh, Vlocity, right? They have seen a lot of potential in Vlocity, because earlier hardly any telecom clients used to use Salesforce, very rarely. Once Vlocity has come, almost 70 plus clients are now using this. 70 plus telecom companies started using Salesforce, right? So it's good for their business. That's why they're more concentrating on Vlocity, and Vlocity is trying to improve it up to 15 industry clouds, right? As of now, the more stabilized versions are this communications, energy utilities, insurance, health, and government. Right? Let's see a few examples. Right? These are few companies that are already using Vlocity, right, across various domains. Right? Maybe these numbers are incorrect. This is pretty old slide, right? Verizon is using British Telecom, right? M1 Telecom, T-Mobile, Telstra, Vodafone started to use it, right? So many insurance companies, energies, and even government sector. New Zealand, one of their ministries using. Many of US government ministries are using. Canadian government is using for various things. And in fact, Canada and government is using this energy and utilities also for their purpose, right? Now let's see, understand what all things Velocity provides other than this data model and everything. So uh, advantages of using Velocity is like basically, first of all, as I said, so much of uh, before development starts, right? Most of the thing is already done. You don't have to worry about, how your architecture is going to be, how your data model is going to be, right? 90% of it is already done. Just make little tweaks, to make sure that your client's requirements fit in, right? And even for the developer, it's going to be easy because most of the things, like for example, if I go to any Amazon, right? If I create any order and if I buy any product, right? Maybe there is a promotion I have to apply. In the back end, to apply that promotion, you may have to write an Apex class or anything. We don't have to worry about that because Velocity already provides it, right? So these so many, specific things which are like always going to be standard no matter which client you are there, which client is using. Right? These kind of standard things are already customized by Velocity. All we do is simply call that Apex class provided by Velocity by passing some inputs. That's all. Right? Next is development of this web pages according to your business requirements, which even have most complex functionalities, becomes way too faster, right? Which basically means, for example, if you, yeah, let's consider Amazon itself. You go to Amazon, first you see all the homepage where you'll find all the product categories and everything. You click on a product category, then you'll find all the related products with so many filter options. You choose a product, then you proceed to checkout. There you'll ask for sign in, or if you're a new customer, all your, you have to provide your details. Once done, it will ask for address. Once done, it will ask for payment details. Then it will finally go for payment, and finally you'll see the order summary page. Right? These are all different web pages that are required to for Amazon's business flow. Right? So it's going to be almost similar in the similar lines for even uh, Velocity. I mean, telecom or insurance. Right? The business for your business flow to fit in, you need these web pages, right? And you can build them in a much faster way with more complex functionalities as well, right? Trust me, it is most of the times it is going to be drag and drop when you use Velocity. Even for a complex web application, it is going to be a simple drag and drop. Right? And yeah, developing these complex logics, right? It's also becomes pretty easy and faster for a developer. Right? What if I told you that if you use Velocity, you never even have to write an Apex controller, Apex class, because whatever you do in Apex class, you can achieve that using some of the Velocity components by simply dragging and dropping. You don't have to use any code, and you can achieve that using by simple drag and drop. If you want to have an if condition in your Apex class, you have something like that in Velocity component. You can just simply drag and drop it. Right? You can write the condition there. That's it. If you want to use a for loop, there is a remedy for that in Velocity. Right? So for almost all the complex scenarios, you already have components that can be dragged and dropped and achieve. You can achieve the same result by simple configuration. Right? And if you obviously, if you're in a project, you have to obviously deal with so many other external systems. You have to integrate with all those external systems, right? Even for a good developer, right, who knows Apex very much, right? Still, to make an API call or to expose Salesforce data as an API, it is obviously going to take a time. But if you use Vlocity, if you want to invoke an API, hardly you can do it in under 5 minutes just by configuration, right? And yeah, in Vlocity, the data is dealt in JSON format, right? All the data that you process is going to be in JSON format, and JSON is the most lightweight and easy to understand and faster processing data language, right? Uh, we'll discuss more about JSON when we start our training sessions. We'll have a separate class for this JSON as well. It doesn't even require any specific, knowledge pre-handed. It's just that, I mean, if you look at a JSON structure, you can yourself understand without even having any knowledge of JSON. It's going to be that pretty easy to understand, also faster and lightweight, right? So yeah, now there are certain Vlocity out of the box features that comes along with the package, right? First one is, in order to uh, there is something called order capture, and there is another thing called order management, right? Order capture is nothing but, for example, let's say I go to Amazon and buy a product, right? I just said the whole process, right? You go to Amazon, see all the product catalogs, see the product, choose the product, give the address details, account details, proceed to payment, and finally go to the order summary. This entire process is called order capture, right? From the time any anonymous user comes into your website and till the time he buys a product and makes a payment, right? That whole process is called order capture. Why? Because you're capturing the information required for your order to be processed in the backend from the user, right? For example, if a user wants a mobile phone, he'll go to Amazon and he'll go through all this flow and finally make a payment, right? So meanwhile, he's choosing a product, he's giving you account details, he's giving you address details, he is making payment. Here we are gathering information from him so that we can deliver the mobile phone to him, right? So this whole process is called order capture. And usually if you are to build an order capture journey in your or order capture flow in your application, even Salesforce or any other, you need a lot of coding required. Right? You have to build VF pages or Lightning components or LWC. You may have to write lots of Apex controllers to deal with all your logics, right? But Vlocity provides you the declarative approach to build all these business flows and complex logics for your order capture journey. I mean, I won't say it is like 100% configuration. There could be some places where you may find it tough to use Vlocity components. So there, yeah, you can go for Apex. But if you know, like earlier, Salesforce used to say that 60% should be configuration and only 40% should be customization. But will that ever happen in Salesforce application? Obviously, no, right? You go to any project, Salesforce project, you see so much of customization, right, which keeps on getting added and added. And like, it is always going to be tough to deal with all those applications, maybe at a later point of time, right? How much ever good architecture you give, right, you do whatever you do, but still, since your customers always require, heavy customization, right? They always have requirements beyond what you can achieve through configuration, right? So it is always going to be your organization is always going to become a code heavy application, right? But if you use Vlocity, right, using those components provided by Vlocity, you are going to make sure that at least 85% of the application is built in uh, built through configuration. Only 15% where you may require, obviously clients would require this UI customization, right? So only for that UI related customization, you may have to use code, and some very few places where, maybe you have to go for Apex, right? And Velocity provides you the most dynamic order management process. And again, it's all simple configuration. Order management is nothing but from the time user makes a payment, right? Let's say I go and buy a mobile phone in Amazon, right? After I do the payment, Amazon's job is not done, right? They have to make sure that that product gets delivered to the end customer, right? That process is called order management. From the time a user makes a payment and till the time the product actually gets delivered to the customer, this whole process is called order management. And this is most Velocity provides you the most dynamic and robust order management process. Literally you can achieve so much using this simple configuration again, right? And Velocity provides you the again most dynamic product catalog. This product catalog is nothing but you have to have, for example, just a minute. Okay. For example, you see there are a lot of categories over here, right? You have in your product catalog, you should have these categories, and you have to define all these products somewhere in the database, right? Then only you'll be able to see this in the UI, right? So that product catalog is being provided by Velocity in the most dynamic way. I'll show you one example. For example, whenever I buy this phone, it is coming for around 39,000, 40,000 here, right? And yeah, here they're selling the back cover along with, I think, yeah, they are selling two different cases, right? If you buy these three products individually, it may cost you more. If you buy them together, it may cost you less. Maybe they are providing some offer, right? You can define these kind of complex product structures, right? You can define your entire product catalog using one single screen in Velocity. That is called EPC. You can literally do any kinds of complex, build any kinds of complex product catalog using EPC, which is just one single screen in Velocity, right? And if you are going for a complex product structure, then obviously you need a complex product pricing, right? So, and that's why they are providing Velocity CPQ. It is the customized version of CPQ, which is specific to Velocity, and that's why we call it as Velocity CPQ, right? So this Velocity CPQ again can manage complex pricing for products, right? And finally, we have this digital commerce and card-based APIs. These are nothing but, I think I just said, when you want to apply promotion, promo code to any order, in the backend there has to happen a lot of calculation, which finally reduces this price in the front end, also updates that in the backend, right? You may have to go for Apex class in this case, but since it is going to be a standard thing for all the telecom, all the clients, right? No matter which company or which domain you are in, Velocity provides you these APIs. So all you have to do is pass in your order ID, pass in your promotion ID, and call this already Velocity given Apex class, and it will take care of everything else. Right? There are so many things like that which come in the as part of these digital commerce and card-based APIs. And finally, yeah, you have this industry-specific data models, right? And yep. Now let's get back to this Velocity components which I have been talking about, which lets you do the customization, like lets you achieve the complex logics and business flows using simple configuration, right? So Velocity has divided that into two things. interaction tools and data tools, right? Interaction tools are nothing but the ones which you can use to build a UI, and data tools are nothing but the ones which can process your backend logic, right? So let's start with this Omniscript. Omniscript is basically, I'll show you one proper example so that you can understand. This is just basically a telecom company, M1 Telecom, Singapore-based client, right? Just search for it and you can open this website, and this is that, right? This, except this UI, use the coloring and the styling and all these things, everything else has been done using Omniscript by simple configuration. Whatever you see here, except this orange color and this highlighting, there is this orange color again, there's a background image. These things, yeah, obviously you have to add some kind of styling to it, right? CSS or HTML, whatever it is. But everything else has been done through Omniscript by simple configuration, right? So all of this has been done by simple configuration using Omniscript. And yeah, basically an Omniscript is nothing but, Omni itself means guided, right? So Omniscript is a guided script, right? You create an Omniscript to make sure that users follow this guided flow. So guided flow is a common terminology which you'll find in across all e-commerce platform, right? So guided flow is nothing but, for example, you see, I go to Amazon and I go, whatever you see on the UI, right? You can only do that, right? You cannot do any extra, like going back, doing something else, right? So whatever they provide on the UI, max you can do is click on those buttons, right? So let's say I click on this, and I can just click on this add to cart, and I can click on this proceed to checkout, and then it'll ask. So whatever flow they have defined, we can only go in that flow, right? From product catalog page to choosing the product and clicking on that proceed to checkout and this login page, right? You can only follow, you can only go ahead in this specific way, right? Because yeah. So that's basically, they have defined a guided flow for us, and we will only be able to follow that flow, right? You can never go back, go back, uh, go to back pages. They'll never provide a back button. It's maybe you can find, say it as a business strategy. If you want to go back, you can only use a browser button. Otherwise, they will not provide any back button, right? So that is called as a guided flow, right? It is common across all the e-commerce platforms, right? So guided flow in the sense, whatever flow they have defined, right? You can only proceed forward in that way, right? So you can build those guided flows using your Omniscripts, right? You don't need any code, you don't need anything. All you can do is just simple drag and drop, right? Also, you can implement the backend logics here itself. For example, here, this pick a new number. Whenever I'm launched into this page, basically there is an API call being made which fetches these available numbers. So every time I refresh, these numbers will be different, right? So when I'm creating an Omniscript, I can make this API call out from there itself. No need of any specific Apex controller to do this, to invoke an API. You can create an Omniscript, there itself you can do this, right? So I'll show you one example in org itself. Right. This is how an Omniscript looks. All of these things in this is the structure. Structure is nothing but where you actually build the Omniscript. And on the right side, you will have properties. So all you do is drag and drop the components from the left side into your center part and define the properties for each of these. Right. So if I want that, a radio button, so I'll drag and drop that from here, radio, and I'll give it a name. I'll define what are the options that should be coming. Right. So everything here is done in configuration. Just simple drag and drop, and define the properties as required. And this is the output. Right. This is a web page that has been this. You can use it as a web page by placing in this Omniscript in communities. Right. So here, as I said, this is an API call. Right. If I refresh it, we are going to get new set of numbers. Yep, new set of numbers, and all I do is simple. This is that API call. This is where that API call is being made. I define certain properties. I define all the endpoint and everything. We'll get the output. But if you build the same thing, even this sample page itself, right? Even if it looks simple, how much time would you take to build it in a Lightning or LWC or Visual Force page? Right, to implement the entire backend and front-end logic, right? Which I'll just simply explain this page itself. Like here, this is an API call, and whichever number I choose, it gets highlighted. And there are two options. Either I can go for a new number or go for a port-in option. Here again, there will be a validation. If I enter any number other than 8, which starts with 8 or 9, it is going to show me this error, right? And yeah, this is some fields and all of these things. And again, here in the delivery part, actually here there'll be an API call made from the previous page, where if you enter your zip code, it automatically fetches the address details. And here you can choose the delivery date, which is like only available in the next 7 days, right? And delivery time, all these things, right? So there are so many things that are happening, and you can go to this IMAT store. Based on the zip code, you'll get these nearest stores available for you. This is again another API call. So many things are are there here, and so many logics and validations are happening here, and all of that using simple configuration. Only for this highlighting this orangish color, and whenever I choose an orange border is coming, and this orange color, only for this styling, and these in that specific area, we might have to go for code. Right. That is your Omniscript. And next thing is cards, like cards and flexi cards. Cards are nothing but it provides you a 360-degree view of a customer. Right? Basically, which basically means let's say you have a customer care, right, call center. A customer calls in, and you should deal with that customer, and you should maybe he may call you for adding a new plan, or he may call you for sending the bill to his email. He may call for updating his contact number, whatever it is, right? So you should be able to do all of that in one single screen. Otherwise, your customer care agent has to go here and there searching where to do it, right? You can let the customer do all of multiple tasks in one single page, and that we call as cards. Again, this is going to be configuration for the most part, except for the UI customization. Everything else can be done. This is one example of a cards, and this is an example of a telecom client. You can see on the top left hand side here, the customer picture is there and account number, billing address, all these things. So you're getting account number from account, billing address from address object, and you have this previous orders that are made by customer, and you have his current mobile handsets that are active for his whole family, right? And what are the plans that are active for each of those, and when was the phone got installed, all these things. And you see there are buttons: contact maintenance, download bill, manage payments. So much of functionality can be done in one single page, and that is called cards, and that's why we call it as 360-degree view of a customer. If you open a card, you should be able to get to know all the details of a customer, and you should be able to make changes to all of the whatever he asks, right? Customer care agents should be able to do that in one single screen, and that is why we use cards, right? And finally, in the interaction tools, there is something called templates. Templates is basically the place where you add this UI customization, right? You can use Angular, JavaScript, or HTML, or CSS, or combination of all the three in these templates, right? So this is the one place where you may have to use coding, right? Obviously, for example, if you take Facebook, or for that matter, Salesforce itself, you build whatever you want with in Salesforce, build VF page, build lightning component. If you don't add styling, it's going to be this white and bluish color, right? If you want styling, obviously you have to go for this CSS, HTML, whatever it is. So same thing goes here also in Vlocity. Whatever you build, it is going to, since it is a subsidiary of Salesforce, everything is going to come in white and blue theme. If you want to change that, use these templates to add that UI richness, right? And then coming to these data tools, like they are providing certain data tools which you can make sure that together work as a Apex controller, and all of these are configuration again. A data after extract is nothing but it is a replacement of your SOQL query with much more options, right? You don't have to write an SOQL query, even if it is a complex one. You can create a data after extract through configuration. You choose which object, which fields, and what filters you want to apply. It runs the query, and you can work with any number of objects in one single data after extract. And this data after load is basically you can use it to as a replacement of your DML statements. If you want to update something, if you want to insert something, if you want to upsert something, you use a data after load. No need to again write a for loop, add all these into one list, and then update that list. You don't have to do that. You can simply use a data after load. And again, this is going to be configuration. You choose what is the object, you choose what are the fields, and you choose from where the data is coming, and that's it. You can choose which operation, update or upsert or insert, right? And transform, yeah, it needs more knowledge. We'll discuss when we start the classes. And coming to the integration procedure, which is the most effective one out of all these, right? Which is the most powerful tool provided by Vlocity, right? So it is just like whatever you do in your Apex class, same thing can be done using integration procedure, including this try-catch block. You usually use this try-catch, right, to handle all your errors. Including that, you can achieve all of that through integration procedure by simple drag and drop, right? So I'll just show you quickly a few examples how we can configure them, integration procedures, and what all things we can do. Meanwhile, if you have any questions you would like to know, any details, you can ask. Sorry, someone said something. Just give me a moment. I'll show you some examples. Right. Right. On the screen, whatever you see, right? This is to get those available numbers, and everything has been done through configuration here, passing all the required things like endpoint, method type, all these things. Everything through configuration, and you can build this hardly what. All you have to do is just drag and drop the respective elements and do the define the properties, and you get the output. So whatever you do in your Apex class, you can do the same thing over here. This is a response from MuleSoft. And I'll show you one better example. This is again, whatever Omniscript you have seen, integration procedure also looks like that. That screen, you'll have all the available components and everything. And in the structure, you'll add all these elements. This one integration procedure is an example where we deal with all the data things related to add-ons. If a user subscribes an add-on, if user unsubscribes an add-on, or if you user modifies an add-on, right? All these scenarios are handled in one single integration procedure, and nowhere a single line of code has been used. Everything has been achieved through drag and drop. Right? You can see there's a try-catch block, loop block, condition. I mean, there are much more options you can do in integration procedures. Right. So yeah, calculation procedure is again, you may have to achieve some complex calculations, right? So for that purpose, we'll use calculation procedures. Right. So this is pretty much about Vlocity. These are all things that are provided by Vlocity, and end-to-end application can be built in Vlocity, right from configuring your product catalog till making your UI application, dealing with all the backend logic, then processing this order management, all these things. From the time you build a website right from the scratch, including the product catalog and everything, till you actually get these products delivered to the customer, the whole process can be built in Vlocity by mostly configuration. Right? I will give you some examples like visible.com. You can just search in Google. These are all actual companies that are using. Visible is Verizon subsidiary. Verizon is US biggest telecom company. Visible is its subsidiary. These guys are using Vlocity. Again, if you go for rogers.com, you can go for Tellers. Right? All these guys are, using Vlocity. Some are using the UI also from Vlocity. Some are using, maybe UI is different, but entire backend is Vlocity. Right? You can achieve most of the things through configuration. Right. So that's about Vlocity, and as part of our training, we'll definitely going to cover all these topics which you see on the screen. Whatever components we just have seen now, we'll discuss in detail, like what are all those available components provided by Vlocity, how to drag and drop, what are the properties you can define for each and every component you drag and drop. So we'll learn that. We'll try to see how to build an order capture journey. We'll definitely look into this order management, EPC, CPQ, all these APIs, and data models as well. And also, once the training is done, we'll try to provide the documentation regarding these, covering all these topics. Right? And in our training session, we are going to go ahead with a live example. Like instead of just discussing all these topics, just like a normal lecture, like we can actually work with an example And as we go ahead, we keep extending that same requirement and learn more and more components of Vlocity. Right. Any questions or anything you would like to know?
Yeah, actually, I have one question. Can we use Vlocity for sales or service cloud?
Yeah, for Sales Cloud, definitely you can use. Order capture is nothing but your Sales Cloud. And when you start actually use Vlocity, you'll worry less about Sales Cloud or Service Cloud, because these are industry clouds. Yeah, that's a good point actually. In Salesforce, you only get Sales Cloud, Service Cloud. Now I think they have this marketing and health clouds. But when it is Vlocity, can dig a little more deeper. You can have telecom cloud, you can have media cloud, like that, right? So they are providing much more things. And yeah, once you start using Vlocity, you don't bother much about the Sales Cloud. It's just there in Salesforce, but you may not even use that.
Okay, so actually, I was just looking about those packages, and there are options like health, communication. So, for example, I want to implement this for Sales Cloud and Service Cloud. So, so which one should be the better?
I think you are getting confused over here. Sales and Service Cloud are like, what is Sales Cloud? Basically, uh, I mean, in order to promote your sales and get your products more into the market, then you use Sales Cloud. But when you have industry specific clouds, like for telecom, not just that, you can do much more things. Why do you go for Sales Cloud? I mean, why do you go a step back? Right? When you have something called as cards, which can take care of most of your uh, sales service cloud part, right? Cards is nothing but customer care, building a screen for customer care agent. Ultimately, the backend is always going to be the case object, all these things, but you are building much more complex functionality using this. Why would you go back and again start using service cloud?
Okay, so I can use it for any object, right?
Anything, yeah. It's basically going to be from now on. Yeah, I think Salesforce also is moving from that sales cloud, service cloud, because that is just pulling them down. I mean, they're not going anywhere with that. They have already a good number of clients, and only they are using Salesforce now. Like, new customers are not coming. That's why they're concentrating more in Vlocity, because they can get more and more customers. Because not just sales cloud. Sales cloud means like any company, it is going to be sales cloud. Insurance, telecom, government, or whoever it is, that's basically a sales cloud. But if you use Vlocity, you have industry specific domain, right? And that's why Salesforce themselves are concentrating more on Vlocity.
Okay, and to learn Vlocity, is CPQ knowledge essential?
Not CPQ, yeah. There is a customized version of CPQ, which we will cover in our class.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep. Any other questions? You can ask me if you have any other doubts regarding Vlocity. Like, what is the scope? I mean, yeah, let's come to the scope. Like right now, as I said, Salesforce themselves are concentrating more on Vlocity, because it is bringing them a lot more clients, a lot more customers, right? So obviously, Vlocity has a very good scope. Now, like even if you just write Vlocity in your resume, you'll already start getting calls. It's that good now, as of now. Yep. Anything else? Any other questions?
Dilip, so this is the course structure which you are going to proceed.
Sorry?
This is the course structures, correct? Which you were showing. the screen.
Okay. Yep. As part of our training, we'll cover all these features individually, and yeah, we'll dig deeper into all these features, and then yeah, learn all these things.
So we are going to cover both modules, CPQ, Velocity CPQ, and order management.
Not CPQ, we'll cover Velocity CPQ.
Yeah, Velocity CPQ. Like we have two certifications. One is a Velocity CPQ, and one is the order.
Right. We are going. Whatever you see on the screen, we'll cover everything here in our sessions.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
We'll cover.
how about the product configuration?
Yeah, we'll do that as well. Right. As I said, like whatever I'm showing in the screen, right? We are going to go to each and every individual topic. We'll dig deep, and then yeah, we'll learn all these topics. Right from product configuration to order capture, order management, pricing, all these things.
So it means like we are going to create a one like sample project, which
Yep.
is covers this all concept.
Right. Some features we may not be able to implement, like because in our trial orgs, which provided by Velocity, we'll not be able to do certain things. We have some limitations. So yeah, maybe not to that extent. We'll definitely understand each and every topic, and we'll try to build actual requirement, maybe to an extent which Velocity allows in a trial org.
Okay.
Yeah. Any other questions? Right. From tomorrow, we'll start the regular classes. You can get in touch with svtechsoft. You can see the email address and mobile number over here. Right. You can enroll yourself from tomorrow. We'll start with the sessions from tomorrow itself.
Sorry, I just have one doubt. So for example, I done the Velocity course and I'm now going for the interview. Are the interview also expect to have a good knowledge of CPQ? I mean, are they both Velocity and CPQ used together?
Yeah, that's what CPQ is different and Velocity CPQ is different. Velocity, yeah, they are going to expect you to know at least the Velocity CPQ. Right, Velocity CPQ is more customized version of CPQ, which can fit in for Velocity actually. So we'll definitely learn that Velocity CPQ, and yeah, I think you will be able to answer the questions.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Right then, if you don't have any other questions, then we can close for today.